I'm completely fascinated by this whole discussion that's going on right now, especially on TikTok, about people who are cutting off family members and friends who voted for Trump in this election. First off, let's talk about the misuse of the quote, blood is thicker than water. Big time manipulation tactic, and it's misused. The quote, I believe, actually goes, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which is actually the opposite of what people are using it for. And yes, it's 100% a guilt tactic, a manipulation tactic to use against somebody. Well, I'm family, therefore you need to give me your attention. You are not under any obligation to give somebody your attention or your time because they're family. That's not a, that's not a card they can whip out and say, hey, family, I need your time right now. No. That's not how it works. Take it from somebody who used to be an enabler. I had to learn boundaries, and I had to learn boundaries the hard way. And trust me, I'm a much happier, healthier person because of it. If these people are toxic, cut them out of your circle, because they are emotionally draining people. They are, you know what? They call other people snowflakes. They are the biggest snowflakes in the world. And they're the biggest crybabies in the world. And I'm not saying all Trump voters, okay? This is strictly MAGA people, the crazy people who wear stupid tampons on their ears, buy $200 gold shoes, and then, are complaining that they can't afford a carton of eggs, driving around in their gas-guzzling $100,000 trucks, complaining about how the world has done them wrong, going to Disney World 3 times a year, with family packages and stuff like that. Give me a break.
MAGA voters are getting cut off by their families, their friends, their communities. And today we're watching it happen in real time through the people living it, the ones posting about it, processing it, defending it, and occasionally completely missing the point of it. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's get into it.
My heart's broken. My grandma just sent me a very sad text. It broke my heart. And my mom has yet to text me back.
Cry me a fucking river. When we say this is what you voted for, this is quite literally what we mean. She starts off the video by saying that this is gonna be her last political video. She's got those nice white woman tears. She's so upset because her family found out that she voted for Donald Trump, and now a chunk of her family no longer wants to speak to her. She's like, oh, my grandma sent me this really sad text. My mom hasn't texted me back today. You can vote for whoever you want, because I know that's what Trumpsters who see this video are going to say. Everyone has the right to vote for who they want. Of course they do. However, how you vote also has consequences, not just on a grand scale with what those elected politicians will do, but yes, on a personal scale. People in your life will have a reaction to how you voted, and you don't get to then claim that you're a victim because people in your life are holding you accountable for that vote. You are not obligated to vote for anybody.
This is just cause and effect living rent-free in people's heads. You cast a vote, people respond to that vote. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's not persecution. It's not some coordinated attack on your freedom. It's just other people exercising the same freedom you used in that voting booth. Grandma sent a sad text and suddenly you're the victim. Nah, Grandma's just communicating her boundaries, which is something we apparently only respect when it's convenient.
And people in your life are not obligated to have a relationship with you. And as the conservatives like to say, co-parter.
So apparently there's some queer Trump supporters who are surprised to realize that they're not welcome in our community. Like this lesbian who says that it's disgusting that queer people are no longer inviting her to their events or their circles. Like, girl, you're not the victim here. You voted for someone who is a fundamental existential crisis to queer people, and then you're surprised that people in the community don't want to hang out with you? Like, marriage equality is literally on the line, and you literally voted for the guy who will try to take it away. No, that 13% who voted for Trump is not welcome in the community. It doesn't mean you're not queer. You are, and you're going to be affected by ultimately what's going to happen under this administration. But you're the one who shunned the community while the rest of us stood in solidarity. Forgive me if I don't shed a tear for you.
My brother and his fiance uninvited me from their wedding, and now I have the wonderful pleasure of uninviting them from holiday activities because they voted for Donald Trump. I just want to know what you guys think of the whole entire situation, and if I'm being petty, if I'm being unreasonable. Just to give you guys a heads up, my brother gets free healthcare, my brother goes to school for free, and I helped him apply for all of those government programs. In addition to that, I gave my brother a free BMW SUV. He drives a free car, I pay for his car insurance, and I pay for his cell phone bill. In addition to that, he lives at home and completely relies on the financial assistance of my mother. So this boy has the audacity to not only vote for Donald Trump, who is against women like myself and my mother, but then he has the audacity, after my mother was crying all day yesterday, he comes home celebrating his victory and rubbing it in my mom's face. Now, I understand we all have different opinions and political views, but you do not go to the home of a woman who financially supports you and rub it in her face. Go ahead, laugh about it with your friends, laugh about it with your unemployed fiance. It has now been over a month that I cut my brother off and I no longer answer his phone calls because the only reason he called me anyway was when he needed money. And I know that's really hard to do, and I know right now a lot of people are going to have some very uncomfortable Thanksgivings and Christmases, but at the end of the day, I really encourage you all to protect your peace. I'm not saying that you need to cut out every single person in your life that doesn't agree with you politically, but if after this election someone is literally taunting you, laughing at your face, and disrespecting you, regardless of what political party they are a part of, that person doesn't need to be in your life.
Let's be clear about what actually happened here. She gave this woman a free car, pays her insurance, her phone bill, helped her access government programs she benefits from daily, and she comes home celebrating and rubbing it in the face of the woman. Keeping her entire life afloat, the politics are almost secondary at that point. What we're really looking at is somebody who mistakes generosity for guaranteed loyalty. And she's right. If the only calls you get from someone are, "Hey, I need something" calls, that's not a sister. That's a dependent with attitude. Cutting that off wasn't petty. That was just basic self-respect finally showing up. Protect your peace isn't a TikTok slogan. It's a survival strategy.
I'm completely fascinated by this whole discussion that's going on right now, especially on TikTok, about people who are cutting off family members and friends who voted for Trump in this election. First off, let's talk about the misuse of the quote, "blood is thicker than water." Big time manipulation tactic. And it's misused. The quote, I believe, actually goes, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb," which is actually the opposite of what people are using it for. And yes, it's 100% a guilt tactic, a manipulation tactic to use against somebody. Well, I'm family, therefore you need to give me your attention. You are not under any obligation to give somebody your attention or your time because they're family. That's not a card they can whip out and say, "Hey, family, I need your time right now." No. That's not how it works. Take it from somebody who used to be an enabler. I had to learn boundaries, and I had to learn boundaries the hard way. And trust me, I'm a much happier, healthier person because of it. If these people are toxic, cut them out of your circle because they are emotionally draining people. They are, you know what? They call other people snowflakes. They are the biggest snowflakes in the world. And they're the biggest crybabies in the world. And I'm not saying all Trump voters, okay? This is strictly MAGA people, the crazy people who wear stupid tampons on their ears, buy $200 gold shoes, and then, are complaining that they can't afford a carton of eggs, driving around in their gas-guzzling $100,000 trucks, complaining about how the world has done them wrong, going to Disney World 3 times a year, with family packages and stuff like that. Give me a break. The real people who are struggling are not on TikTok and not on Facebook. They're busy working 100-hour work weeks just to make ends meet. So, that's that. If you've got, I'm very glad for people that are practicing these boundaries. If you have to take your safe space back, take it back.
The snowflake observation she made earlier is genuinely the sharpest point in this whole video. You cannot spend years calling everyone else emotionally fragile and then fall apart because your social circle quietly restructured itself. Either feelings matter or they don't. Pick one and stay consistent. And the thing about real struggling people not being on here making rants, that one stings because it's just true. The loudest voices performing hardship online are usually the most comfortable people in the room.
And for the MAGA people, they're finding out now that, well, shit, I got to hang out with other MAGA people now. They wanted to own the libs, but they wanted to make sure that their lib friends didn't go away because their lib friends are fun, compassionate people to be around. And now they're finding out that MAGA people, that group is not a fun group. It's not fun. They're not fun people to be around. We've all had that experience with that MAGA person that just does nothing else but talk about MAGA and talk about Trump and talk about how he's going to make things great again and roll their eyes at their ignorance and their the lack of self-awareness. So, I mean, for those people, they're finding out very quickly that, it's not fun over there. But I mean, like everything in life, everything has a consequence, and you wanted this vote, you voted your way, and you're entitled to do so. But, the flip side of that is people are entitled to not have anything to do with you if they don't want to. So you do you, boo.
We're allowing this chaos to destroy our families, to destroy our friendships. How many people don't talk to someone now because of who they voted for? I mean, I know someone tonight whose child told them, you can't see my children if you go see this movie or you voted for someone. This is what has infiltrated our nation.
See if you can guess who the bad guy is in this situation.
It feels just absolutely batshit crazy to me that at this point in time, I say to my mother, have you heard about Minneapolis? Have you heard about Venezuela? And then I ask the question, does this change your opinion at all? And her response is, we're not going to talk about this because if we do, you'll tell me I can't see the kids anymore.
You're right. That is absolutely crazy. And I know that you think that your mom is the bad person in this situation because she's not talking about the issues that you want to talk about, and she's not changing her way of thinking to the way that you think, which is wild because I'm sure she's heard a lot about inclusivity, love, compassion, and empathy from you as well. But the bad guy in this situation is you, man, because your mom knows that her daughter is so unhinged that if she even tries to have a different opinion than her, that will be grounds to cut off contact, for her to never see her grandkids again. Politics has become your entire identity. And it is absolutely crazy that your mom knows that you're using her grandkids as leverage to make her think the way that you do. And that your politics are the most important thing, to the point where you wouldn't even hesitate to cut off your kids from their grandparents and vice versa. You would willingly hurt the people that you're supposed to love to make a point.
She's calling something out here that cuts in every direction, and I respect it. Using your own children as leverage to control how a grandparent thinks is not activism. That is emotional hostage-taking with a political justification stapled to it. And the person doing it almost certainly believes they are the reasonable one in the room, which is the scariest part. When your identity gets so wrapped up in a belief system that you're willing to weaponize your own kids to defend it, you've stopped fighting for values and started fighting for dominance. That's not love with boundaries. That's control. Dressed up in the language of principles. The line between conviction and obsession is razor thin, and a lot of people have already crossed it without realizing.
I've lost more friends since coming out as conservative, since coming out as a Trump supporter. What does that say about tolerance? Friend, you have every right to show up in life as you are. We just don't feel safe with you anymore.
It's actually been quite brutal. I've had friends that I've known for over a decade in the last couple of days that have completely turned their back on me and want nothing to do with me anymore. So it's been a hard few days, yet still I do not regret my decision, and I don't regret my decision to go public with this information either.
Indeed.
If you have lost quote-unquote friends due to your political beliefs, then, well, were they truly friends to begin with? Now, this may not be an easy thing to hear, but it is necessary to understand. If an individual is only able to love you based upon your aligned beliefs, if they can only tolerate your presence so long as you are in complete agreement with what they believe, they are not your friend. I don't care how long they've been around. I don't care what you may have gone through in the past. If that individual is too immature to have a reciprocity of love, regardless of what the belief systems may be of either individual, there is no friendship there. True and genuine friendship is based off of the goodwill of one another. You hold the best regard for the other no matter what. And so if you find yourself in a place where you are losing these so-called friends, I promise you this is a blessing, oftentimes in disguise, but you are finally getting to see the true colors of the people around you. And in this life, the people you surround yourself with are going to be the greatest impactors of the trajectory of your life. So if you're surrounded by people who are filled with hate in their heart,
This is the part people skip over because it's uncomfortable. Losing people who only loved the version of you that agreed with them is not a loss. It's information, expensive information sometimes, but information, conditional friendship isn't friendship. It's a transaction with a loyalty clause buried in the small print. And when those people reveal themselves, yes, it hurts. But now your map of reality is more accurate than it was yesterday. That's genuinely worth something. Let the seasonal characters exit and get clear on who's actually built for the long run.
that's going to be the trajectory that you will be pulled towards. But instead of those people are shed from your life, this is a blessing that will allow you to purify where you stand and to move in direct alignment with the things that are absolutely best for you, the things that you are called to do from the spirit and into the flesh. And so if you are that person right now sitting at home feeling lonely, thinking to yourself, when is this person going to come back? They may have very well been a seasonal character in your life, and that's okay.
People keep saying don't let politics ruin friendships or relationships. Y'all are missing the bigger picture here. I am not upset with you for being a Republican. I am not upset with you for having a different political view than me. I am upset, however, that racism wasn't a deal breaker for you. That homophobia wasn't a deal breaker for you. That sexual assault wasn't a deal breaker for you. 34 felonies was not a deal breaker for you. And that is a deal breaker for me.
I married a Trump supporter, and this is how it went. Before I go into the story, I want to preface by saying that I believe there is a difference between a Trump supporter and a Republican. He would constantly say things like, build the wall. Even after I told him how hurtful and disrespectful hearing that was, because I came from a family of immigrants. Because of this experience that I had with my ex, being a Trump supporter is a deal breaker for me. The main reasons for this is because anytime me and my ex argued, he was always threatening to call ICE on my family. And the relationship was very abusive, but I stayed because of these threats. I felt guilty a lot of the times for putting my family at risk. He consistently used me as an example as to why he's not racist because he married a Mexican. He basically treated me as an exception. One time we were at his family's house, and his Trump-supporting family cornered me and harassed me about my political views. And I actually mean I was in a corner like this, and I had like 3 females in front of me arguing with me. He watched this happen and didn't do anything about it. And it was not one of those healthy political discussions. They were literally hounding me. Just because he married me does not mean he respected me. I come from...
That line right there deserves its own moment because it is deeply true, and way too many people live inside the confusion she just described. Treating someone as the exception to your prejudice is still prejudice. The math doesn't change just because you made it personal, and the fact that he stood there and watched his family corner her and said absolutely nothing, that silence told her everything she needed to know about where his actual loyalty was. Marriage is supposed to mean someone is your safe place in a room full of people who aren't. When they become the reason you're not safe, the relationship has already ended. The paperwork just hasn't caught up yet. She got out, and that took real courage, especially when threats were the chain keeping her in place.
From a town that I would say is predominantly conservative. Back then, I wasn't as outspoken as I am now because I was still in the town at the time, and I did have a fear of speaking out because of how aggressive they were. Has anyone had similar experiences like these? And I know you might be wondering, but yes, I did divorce him.
Does anybody else out there have friends and family that have completely changed since the coming of Donald Trump? Or is it just me? I've had longtime friends that I used to think were good people, and the stuff that has come out of their mouth since Donald Trump became president the first time, but now in this second term, it's gotten so much worse. And the same thing with family members. It's like Donald Trump has just given everybody permission to be the worst type of human being that they possibly could be. I've had friends and family that would come up with the most awful things about trans people and in the LGBTQ community. I've heard people say that physically disabled people shouldn't be allowed to exist because they can't work and they're a drain on society. Donald Trump has given all of these people permission to be the absolute worst of the worst. These are the types of people who are now making our rules and setting the agenda, who are forcing their twisted ideas of Christian nationalism upon the rest of the country, trying to drag us back hundreds of years in history. But I'm shocked that these people in this day and age exist in the numbers that they do. What I find even more interesting is that the disdain from Trump supporters for minimum wage workers or workers that struggle to make ends meet. They call them, just work harder, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, etc., and etc. And yet most of these people that are saying these things, they're in the same boat. They all think they're millionaires, but they just haven't arrived yet. They're under the delusion that they are one of the elites, that they are one of the rich, they're one of the wealthy, and they're part of a team and they're part of this club, but they don't belong to it. I can't tell you how often I can drive by just poor neighborhoods and see so many Trump signs in the yard. And it's like, you're voting against your own interest. You're not part of the club. But yet they love to pretend and play like they are part of Trump's club. You're not. I don't know what drives them to keep voting against their own interest.
The answer to that question has been sitting in social psychology research for decades. It's not ignorance. It's identity. When belonging to a group feels more real and more valuable than the material benefit a policy would actually give you, people choose the group every single time. That's just how humans are wired. The "at least I'm not them" feeling is genuinely more motivating to some people than a pay raise or healthcare access. That's a brutal truth about tribalism, but it explains almost everything. Confusing about modern political behavior. You're not going to logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into. The tribe is the point. The policies are just the jersey.
Other than it's a superiority complex. They think they're better than certain groups of people. They think they're better than people of certain colors of skin. It's ridiculous. They would rather vote against their own interests to ensure that somebody that they don't like doesn't get something. They don't want anybody to get any kind of help. I do find it extremely sad that so many people that I thought were decent as human beings are really not. And they're driven by extreme weird social issues. And, it's weird because the Republican Party, no matter who they put up, can do or say whatever they want, just as long as they get out there in public and say God or Jesus. And then all of a sudden, all of the poor and all of these older religious people who want to force us into some kind of Christian Taliban, they'll vote for him, man. They will vote for him. Doesn't make a damn bit of difference to them, the policies, just as long as they believe that that person is a religious, holy person. They got their vote locked and loaded, The idea that people don't deserve a living wage because other people deem that the jobs that they do are low skilled and low value, which that always bothers me when people talk about low value. You're talking about human beings. There's plenty of value. Everybody contributes to a system, and if all of these people decided that they weren't going to work anymore, these so-called low value jobs, all of these other businesses would cease to exist. Places like Walmart, Burger King's, McDonald's, Taco Bell's, the list goes on down the line, gas stations, they would all close. These are businesses that only exist because people work at them. I don't understand why the right wing cannot wrap their head around the fact that if these people didn't work these so-called low-value jobs, these companies wouldn't be around. There wouldn't be any of these billion-dollar corporations. How would they exist if no workers showed up? How would Burger King exist? How would a McDonald's exist? How would a Walmart exist or an Amazon exist? They contribute to society. The workers are the reason that America has been able to produce so much wealth.
The argument he's making here is actually airtight, and it doesn't get said clearly enough. You cannot simultaneously call a job low value and depend on that job existing for your own life to function. Those two positions cannot coexist. One of them has to give. Every massive corporation people celebrate was built on the backs of workers who are then told they don't deserve a meaningful share of what they built. And somehow the people absorbing that squeeze the hardest end up defending the system. Doing the squeezing, that's not a political failure. That's a storytelling victory by the people at the top. They convinced the bottom to protect the interest of the ceiling. And it's been working for a very long time.
The fortunate part of that is that the elites in the top 1% have hoarded all that wealth. So these jobs are not low value. They provide a great value. I don't know, the changes that I've seen in people since Donald Trump has been horrendous. I have quite a different viewpoint of a lot of friends, a lot of family members that I never had before. I guess they were always those people. They just hid it better. Trump has given them permission to no longer be in hiding. They can just come out with their blatant homophobia, their blatant racism, their blatant disdain for the average American worker. The party of bootlicking billionaires.
What we just watched was a whole lot of people on every side of this thing discovering the same uncomfortable truth at the same time. That your choices have a social cost. That relationships are not unconditional by default. And that voting is not a private act when you live inside a community that has to absorb the consequences of that vote. Some of these people handled it with grace. Some absolutely did not. But the thread running through all of it is that political identity has fused with personal identity in a way that makes everything feel like a personal attack, and that is genuinely dangerous territory for everyone, regardless of which direction you're pointing. So here's the question I want you to sit with and drop in the comments. Is there a line where cutting someone off over politics becomes justified? And where exactly is that line for you? Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.